Good morning and welcome to our second formal webinar. Thank you all for taking the time out to join us here once again. We really appreciate it. My name is Shazil Ahmed. I'm a project engineer here at Vedam. And our speaker today is Mr. Nabil Qazi. I'm sure all of you know him very well. He's our project head here at Vedam. The topic today will be approach for OSVs to comply with BWM convention. We will be highlighting the different standards and compliances, as well as the approach and solutions for BWM compliance. So the presentation itself will be 15 minutes long, and and then the remaining 15 minutes will be for the question and answer section. So I hope you stick around for that. It'll be a good one, I promise. So before we start, I'd like to tell everyone that we will not be answering questions during the presentation itself. All the questions will be answered at the end at the question and answer round. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat box and I will be reading them out and Mr. Nabil will be answering them at the end. So without further ado, I think I'll pass it on to Mr. Nabil and he can begin. So take it away, sir.
Thank you, Shazil. Thanks for the introduction and welcome all. Good morning and good afternoon to you. I, Nabil Qazi from Vedam Design, taking you through to today's presentation, approach for offshore supply vessels to comply with the Ballast Water Management Convention. Starting with Vedam's introduction. Vedam, I'll keep this introduction very short. Vedam is a design and engineering company founded in 2007. We are serving the sectors of marine, offshore, dredging and gas. Services that we provide are ship design, production designs for the shipyard, conversion and retrofit designs, site supervision and project management. Engineering analysis includes FEA, CFD, mooring analysis, hydrodynamics, LNG projects, dredger designs, marine consulting, 3D scanning and AR/VR solutions. Vedam has been serving the marine and offshore industry for the last 13 plus years, and we have achieved 1.8 million plus engineering design hours against our 1,000 plus projects that we have executed. We have more than 250 plus satisfied customers. We have executed projects in more than 40 plus countries. We have supported 50 plus dry dockings. The current team of Vedam consists of 150 plus designers, and we have 3 global offices: India, UAE, and Netherlands. Starting with today's webinar, which is the approach for offshore supply vessels to comply with the Ballast Water Management Convention. Talking about the applicability of the convention, the Ballast Water Management Convention for ships in general is applicable to any ship which is designed and constructed for carrying ballast water and is involved in international voyages. The convention has 2 standards of compliances, D1 standard and D2 standard. The D1 standard requires the ships to have a ballast water management plan and a ballast water track record book. At the same time, a ballast water management procedure which should be in line with the compliance of the standard. And as of today, I think most of the existing vessels and new builds are in compliance with this standard of compliance. Talking about the D2 standards, D2 standards requires the ships to implement and install a ballast water treatment system plant on board so that the ballast water on board can be treated before it is being discharged during an international voyage. So as of 8 September 2019, IMO's Ballast Water Convention is to cover existing vessels as well as all the new buildings, including the offshore supply vessels. So the date due for the existing vessel is the next IOPP renewal survey due after 8 September 2019. And for all the ships, the latest date to comply with the D2 standard is 8 September 2024. So this is what we talk about: the applicability of the conventions, the dates, the compliances required, and the standards. Talking about non-applicability, the convention does not apply to certain category ships, mainly ships that are not designed or constructed to carry ballast water. That is, they don't have any ballast water tank on board. that are trading domestically, that is within the coastal region, and the coastal state doesn't have any such requirement for the compliance of the convention. Any warships, naval ship, state operated ship which are involved in non-commercial services are exempted from the requirement of this convention. And also ships with permanent water ballast tanks which are sealed and not discharged are exempted from the requirements. So these are certain clauses which comes under the non-applicability of the convention to the ships. Coming to the question, why ballast water regulations are a headache for the offshore industry or offshore vessels? Starting with a matter of space. Talking about offshore supply vessels, it may be a normal supply vessel, an ASTS, or a platform supply vessel. If we talk about any additional equipment installation or a retrofit within the hull section of such small ships, the lack of space is always a problem. Next is the power availability. The power generators on board OSVs are small, and when we talk about retrofitting and treatment equipment which requires a dedicated power supply, it's difficult. Then cargo operations. OSVs are generally involved in cargo operations which takes place within a short span of time. They are serving the offshore platforms, rigs, etc. So the treatment procedure or the treatment time that will be required may hamper or cause hindrance to these cargo operations. The last is the standby or support operations during long charters. At some times, these vessels are on long charters, acting as a support or standby vessels for the rigs or platforms. At that times, the movements are infrequent and the vessel doesn't changes its position for a few months, thereby requiring to treat the water only once when they are relocating. So these are few reasons why the regulation has become a headache for the convention compliance for the offshore supply vessels. Talking about approach and solutions for the ballast water management convention for the ships, a straight approach as the standard requires a retrofit. And below in what you see here is a snapshot of one of the point cloud 3D scan data project that we have executed for a 62-meter offshore supply ship. We have installed a skid mounted UV type ballast water treatment system. And as you see here, the blue lines are the new ballast water lines routed where the water comes in for treatment and is returned after the treatment to the tanks or for the discharge. So this is from one of our OSV projects where we have done the 3D scanning and the engineering design for retrofitting the equipment. Talking about a suitable ballast water treatment system, or in what characteristics do one look at when we talk about equipment for the offshore supply vessels category? Basically, looking at the problems of space and other constraint factors, one always looks at, can I have a compact fit system for my ship and with a smaller footprints which occupies a less area. So the project's studies and the analysis says the UV type technology system is potentially the most suitable for this compact fit projects. Systems which come in a compact skid packages make these retrofits even more convenient and easy. Also, there are some containerized system or which can be installed on deck are one of the alternative options for this retrofit, wherein the ballast water treatment system along with its all components are ready made inside the container, and the container can be easily be installed on the deck to have the compliance. But the same is again subject to deck space available on board the ship. So these are certain characteristics that one considers or looks at when he's considering a ballast water treatment retrofit for his ship. This approach typically requires a good 3D scanning, a detailed feasibility analysis, so one can identify a appropriate location for placing the equipment, doing the pipe routings. Same followed by class drawings, a detailed engineering for the production and fabrication, and at the end, supervision and project management. So this covers the entire solution for doing a retrofit for our ship. in cases where the owners feel that, oh, retrofit is not the solution, or I'm not going ahead with a retrofit, one needs to think of a alternative solution to achieve the required compliance, or trying to seek an exemption to be to the requirements of the compliance. And one such alternative solution one can think of is to identify and utilize an option from the non-applicable clauses for the convention, and try to seek an exemption and approval from the class and the flag and the RO bodies. So basically, the clause says ships that does not are not designed to carry ballast water are exempted from the requirement of this convention. So considering this, one can think of converting the existing ballast water tanks to freshwater or freshwater cargo tanks. At the same time, the non-applicable clause also says the ships which have permanent ballast water on board are exempted from the requirements. So one can think of converting the ballast water tanks to a permanent ballast water. So this is an approach to, or an alternative approach, rather than going for a retrofit. But this approach to, as it looks simpler, of just converting the tanks or changing the configuration or nomenclature of the tank, doesn't appears to be so simple. Basically, what we are talking about here is a solution wherein an originally designed vessel designed to carry ballast water, we are trying to convert it to carry only fresh water. So the original design had ballast water tanks to serve a certain purpose of the vessel, that is to may it be for a trim correction, heel correction, or even complying to some stability criteria requirements, propeller immersion, etc. So at the initial stage, if somebody plans to go ahead with this approach, he certainly needs to ensure that a detailed gap analysis and a stability analysis is carried out to arrive at an optimum tank configuration before deciding to convert those tanks to freshwater cargo, or going in for a permanent ballast water tank. So once the gap analysis is completed and the tank configuration is finalized, it further requires the system or PNID modification drawings, and parallelly also modifying the system on board, blanking of the lines coming from the ballast pumps to the tanks, then followed by updating the stability documents, that is updating your stability booklet, damage stability booklet with the new loading conditions and tank configurations, updating your GA plans, capacity plans, and seeking approval from class, and further submitting it to the flag and arrow body with the intent of converting this tank. So here in at Vedam, basically we have done projects with both the approaches, wherein we have done the retrofits for various technology and equipments, providing complete end-to-end solution, as well as we have worked with clients wherein we have gone with approach to doing a gap analysis, identifying those tanks and converting those tanks to freshwater or freshwater cargo tanks, and done the modification drawing seeking class approvals. So both the ways, the convention compliance or the exemption from the convention compliance for the offshore supply vessel is feasible. Here in today's webinar, with us, we have one of our clients for whom we have worked. He's the fleet manager for one of the OSV operators in UAE. And I would like him to share his experience with us, or experience of his vessels that they did the planning for their fleet of vessels. Mr. Abhishek Tyagi, he's the fleet manager, and I would just like him to provide his feedback and comments on the projects that we did with them. Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, Nabil. Good morning, Shazil, and welcome to all the Vedam team and the other joiners who are here on this meeting. My pleasure that I've been invited to speak few words on this. Now, we are based out of UAE and we are operating about 20 vessels, wherein most of the vessels are anchor handlers and DP2 OSV vessels. We've been in touch with Vedam now. I think probably we are doing the third or fourth project with them. And what offshore sector has done, most of the smart companies capitalized on the condition that the IOPP renewal survey, which falls after 2019, is the date when you need to do this modification done. So some of the companies opted to have their IOPP certificates renewed last year prior September 2019 so that they could utilize this window till 8th September 2024, which gives them about 3-4 years of time. And what internally happens is that you get to see what all products are available in the market, and within a span of 3-4 years, probably there will be enough spares in the markets also for owners to decide whether they want to go for a retrofitted system or they go with the option of designating the tanks as freshwater or freshwater cargo. Now the approach which we followed, because we had a lot of vessels which are dry docking this year and our IOPP renewals falling in 2019. So lately what we have done with Vedam is that we have gone ahead and changed the designation to freshwater tanks. Now, couple of problems which we are encountering now doing this modification is that we have been in constant touch with class to understand when you change the designation to freshwater tank, there are a couple of drawings where the word ballast was used. For example, the bilge and ballast system, where you will have a modification done. So on one of our vessels, I will not name the class here, we got the final drawings approved, given to us, and mentioning that, okay, now your vessel is exempted from the IBWMC, which is the convention. But when I saw the drawings, we could see that the bilge and ballast drawing still reads the name as bilge and ballast, not as bilge and freshwater. So this is something which you need to clarify with class, that if you are going for the article which is basically the convention is paragraph 2, which is statement A, which says ships not designed or constructed to carry ballast water. That means 3.2a is telling you that you rename your tanks to freshwater tanks, but that is applicable to your drawings also, that the ballast terminology should not exist on any of your drawings. This is very important, because now we are chasing the class back again to have this removed, which they have agreed eventually, and they will be doing. Now the other option is to change it to permanent ballast water in sealed tanks on ships that is not subject to discharge. Here, what happens is that you probably carry minimum seawater in your permanent ballast tanks, but then of course in the long run your seawater is definitely going to damage your steel. So we are following the approach of changing our tanks to freshwater tanks or freshwater cargo tanks. So this is the only approach, and we are trying to make it as an internal closed loop system, wherein we can only transfer from one freshwater tank to the other, and that's it. And this freshwater is usually taken in the dry dock, where we dry dock the vessel. And after that, considering the nature of jobs, which Nabil clearly mentioned, that if you consider anchor handler vessels or supply vessels, the main problem is that if your anchor handlers are handling the anchors or towing the vessel, you will like your deck space to be absolutely clear, which no client will allow you to occupy in case they are doing a towing operation. So retrofit plants, if you have the space in engine room, yes, of course, it's a viable option, but definitely maintenance comes in, and the clients really have to be cash rich for all these systems and be prepared for next 3-4 years. But for us, I mean, what we are following is the approach which I mentioned, and Vedam has been the process takes about a month or so. So we have started working with them well in time, and generally we have been getting a very good response, and the team has been quite helpful on this. Thanks, Nabil. You can take over.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nabil and Mr. Abhishek, for your insight. I'm sure we all found it very informative. I know I did. So that neatly brings us on to the next stage of this, our question and answer round.